Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Geek Branch Podcast. I'm your host, Tim, and this is my co-host, Matt, Devontae, and Dane. So this is our first podcast. We're super excited. It's been a long time in the making. We've been working hard at this. Unfortunately, we still don't have the mics that we had been working towards getting. They're coming in. So next episode, we'll have that. It'll sound crisp and more professional. In the meantime, we're using this blue Yeti mic. So basically, how things run down is we're going to each week, we're going to discuss about hot topics in gaming and otaku, anime, manga type news. Yep. We'll be discussing, of course, the cinematic universe, such as we just found out just a few days ago about Spider-Man, which we're super excited for. That's going to be a big topic. All the controversy with Joker and so much more. We're going to split it up into 4 sections. Our first section is, of course, going to be about the movie cinematic universe, because there is a lot going on. Like I mentioned about, the first thing we're going to talk about is the controversy hanging around the Joker movie. And our friend Matt over here has plenty of information regarding that.
I've been doing quite a bit of looking into the Joker so far, and especially the controversy. And a lot of upset is coming from the fact that it looks to be romanticizing violence. And that what you have is you have this individual that's like been kind of beaten up by the system, and like he's depressed, and he finally ends up snapping one day, and they're saying that the actions that he takes, we're supposed to feel for this person, and they almost make it seem like it's justified. Whereas you get a statement from Warner Brothers that says, we did not intend for you to see this as the hero at all. At all. This is still the Joker. This is still very much a bad man. The things that he are doing, you should not take any positive points away from that. This is not a hero. And those who have read the comic books and have seen Joker media, we know that.
I feel like they're just using this as an excuse just to complain about the movie. Like, we understand the awful shootings that happen with The Dark Knight Returns and all that. So a lot of people from, I think it was Aurora, Texas, where that happened. A lot of people... Colorado. Oh, my bad. Colorado. A lot of people over there are still very upset, and they're concerned that something like that will happen again. It's awful what happened to their families. It was a tragedy. But it wasn't because of a movie. It was because of a person with, obviously... mental disability, a mental impairment. Obviously he was going to do that regardless of what movie you were watching. He had a problem.
Well, let's not speculate on motives as far as in relation to movies, right?
Right.
There's 2 major issues here. The first one, of course, is the same that we've always had. It's the issue of the sympathetic villain. If you make your villain sympathetic, you make people be compassionate towards or inspired by the villain. So there's always been this push against sympathetic villains for that exact same reason. That it might one day inspire someone to follow in this person's footsteps. But none of us, of course, have any idea about why we would want to follow in the footsteps of someone like Joker.
No.
Right?
Who's obviously deranged.
Yeah, you would have to have a chemical imbalance or something to have reasoning to be like him.
Right, it takes drastic circumstances. Now, like, there's a overall symbolic theme to the Joker, especially looking at Alan Moore's the Killing Joke, where it's that whole premise of one bad day that tilts you over the edge and makes you into this type of person. But it's not supposed to be an example of how this should play out. It's an example of it going to an unreasonable extreme that obviously anyone would want to stay away from.
Yes.
Right?
It's a cautionary tale, really.
Right. And it's no different than like Greek tragedies,
right,
where you're not supposed to be this character. This is where this character failed. His flaw. You're supposed to stay away from it. However, on the opposite end of that, we have what is currently the access media pushing this, almost hoping that something like this is going to play out. And I find that to be absolutely detestable. I don't think that it's something that should be in any way even mentioned. There's no need to.
I think
right?
it causes more light on that issue, and it causes a possibility of someone trying to do something like this.
Right.
Because
it's
of
almost
the
as if
attention
they're
behind
instigating it.
Yes, they're
Yeah.
pushing someone. It would more likely cause someone to do this rather than not.
Right, because these type of public incidents are most of the time a last hurrah for people who are in this mindset, right?
Yes.
It's a matter of publicity and being remembered.
Yeah.
And this is incitement, not
Yes.
the movie itself.
Not the movie itself. I mean, the trailers. The only time you might feel sorry for the character when you see people beating him up, but like once you see him spiral down, you understand he's spiraling down. Like you do not. You know it's awful that that's happening to him, but you understand he's someone out of control and not someone you should look up to.
Right.
Yeah.
It's very obvious on the trailers.
Right, and it's not just that. It's really easy to follow for anyone in this situation. Most of the time, when we watch the hero or the main character, which
Right.
doesn't have to be the same thing, of any type of media, we can sympathize with them because their situation is personable, right? If we look at the trailer for the Joker, he's taking care of his sick mother.
Yeah.
Right, he has a career that he's always wanted to pursue, but it hasn't worked out for him.
Yeah.
Right, he may not be in the best physical health. He has to work odd jobs in which the city that he lives in treats him poorly for doing so. These are things we can all understand. However, the thing that separates from us, that makes this a horror almost, is that he goes in a direction no one else would.
You can even tell with the music.
No one else.
It's like it's
should.
obvious. Yes.
Well, I mean, it's really hard to imagine that anyone could match what the Joker, I presume, is going to do in this movie.
Yes.
It's like it may not be something that's even feasible, right?
Yes.
No one can be Thanos, snap, and wipe out the universe.
Right.
So you can't look at Thanos' character and say perfectly balanced. That ideal, if we can become sympathetic to it, we're going to follow in his footsteps. You can't follow in Thanos' footsteps.
No.
You can't follow in the Joker's footsteps. For
No,
most
because
part.
what he does a lot of times is
Just
humanly
impossible for us.
Yeah.
And
Right.
Like another thing with this movie is there is no hero in this movie. Like there's no force acting against Joker, and I think that's a problem. Like everybody,
But they're not trying to make it the typical superhero film, which I respect
Exactly.
that.
Right.
What
But-
Todd Phillips said to Joaquin Phoenix is that we are going to make a real movie about the system under the guise of a superhero movie. That is what Todd Phillips said to Joaquin Phoenix. And you can see that when you look at this, because just like Tim and I and everybody has discussed, is that we felt like this movie wasn't so much a Joker movie as it has a title. And now we see that, but there's a whole other layer to it now.
Right, so follow me. When you're watching a medium or reading it or perhaps doing any other type of consumption of media like this, your protagonist and your antagonist are not necessarily your villain and your hero, right? You can tell a story that doesn't have a hero. If you look at, for instance, I brought up Greek tragedies, many of their characters are not heroic.
Right.
Achilles is an amazing fighter, an
Right.
excellent warrior. Not a hero. The guy's kind of a D-bag.
Yes. Very
Right?
much so.
And that's the same thing. Just because he's the protagonist, the motivator, emotion of the movie, doesn't mean that he's a hero. Joker is not a hero. He is just the driving force of this one story. And this story is going to be tragic.
I think critics are so used to the simplistic formula of
Yeah.
a superhero film that it's hard
You
to.
mean a Marvel film?
Yes, so I love my Marvel films, but yes, they do have a formula. That formula has obviously worked for them money wise all
they
these
got
years.
this misconception that good
Yeah.
triumphs evil every time.
Right, but
Or that your main character in a superhero film
Has to be
has
a
to be a
good-
hero.
yes, obviously Todd Phillips wanted to make a movie that made you think more, and he's trying to essentially make a movie that's an Oscar-worthy movie. That was his goal. He wasn't trying to make an action superhero flick. He was trying to make something different because there's so much already in the superhero media. You know, there's already so many movies that's already been made. There needs to be some stuff that's different.
we
There
have-
needs to be a variety.
Approaching 30 movies of pure popcorn culture.
Yes.
Right? With no real deep subject matter, with the exception of perhaps like Captain America Civil War.
Yes, which was
Right?
Winter Soldier.
Winter
as well.
Soldier was really deep.
Right.
Mm.
But
Winter Soldier, they
normally
did a good job.
speaking, it's popcorn culture. It's
Yes.
Guardians of the Galaxy. It's a good time.
Yes, and that's kind of how they've always viewed it. They view that these movies should be set up that way. where clearly, there is some, some directors, some writers that are trying to take a different direction. And with this different direction, they're having a hard time understanding it. Just like during all the Dark Knight stuff, because Dark Knight wasn't just one of those popcorn flick superhero movies. It did have some more substance to it.
Yeah. I mean, barring the third movie.
Yeah, barring the third movie. But obviously, with a great director like Christopher Nolan, it had more than just that typical superhero film. It obviously was not like the 90s Batman movies. We have the great Michael Keaton movies, but then after that is when things start going downhill.
Schumacher came in and he tried to add something that, was a little more campy, a little more fun. And for some people, that just didn't go well. I know people are really upset with Arnold Schwarzenegger's impression of
Victor
Freeze.
But I love it. Just
when I was a kid, I loved those movies. I mean, obviously, I was a young kid. They were enjoyable.
Look, there's a place for Adam West and Cesar Romero.
Yeah.
There's a place for Heath Ledger and Christian Bale. Right. So there's Batman for everyone. Right,
yes.
There's a type of media that you can consume. Look at the animated series. Look at Batman Brave and Bold.
Yes. So
pick
there's
your choice.
variety in both characters. There is supposed to be variety with the Joker. The Joker is not a character that you put into one category. He is this insane character that can be many things all at once.
Across many writers and many mediums. And this time we're going to be seeing something a little bit more intellectual, which is perfectly fine. Because why can't we have an intellectual superhero movie? Why can't we have a social topic?
Speaking of that, they're getting all up in arms over the Joker movie. And then we got Amazon's The Boys movie, which fantastic. Don't get me wrong. It's fantastic. But it is very, very violent, very dark. I mean, yes. Very messed up series.
Well, yeah. That's definitively what we like to call a deconstruction of the genre.
Yes,
as
it is very much
what Joker would be.
Yes.
Yeah,
but they're not making a big deal out of that.
I think there's a difference, though. I think the difference is that,
because the psychologicalness of...
I think it's the psychologicalness of the Joker, because this isn't just, somebody that ran at high speed and you got a blood cloud. This is somebody that's going through real-life problems, real-life pressures that snaps. This is a real person. And I think that's the disconnect, is people are seeing this and they're just like, whoa, you have people they're in that same position. They're going to be watching this film, and what if they think that this is okay? And I think that's where a lot of the controversy comes, is because you have real people with real pressures that are going to see something like this and think there's a form of release in it.
But this isn't, it's a superhero psychological movie, but it's not the only psychological movie that has come out in recent time.
No, but follow me here, right? This is all within the subject matter, the themes and symbolism of Batman.
Yeah.
Right? Because Batman's always been this.
Yes.
Outside of the campiness and the weirdness, if you go back down to the basics of what the archetypical characters of Batman are, they are answers to particular social issues. Bruce, Batman... What happens if you do lose your... Well, no, not just that. But what happens if you do lose your parents to violent crime? What happens when you do suddenly become an orphan? Right? How should you handle that? What should you do with your life? Should you be Bruce at the very beginning, year zero, where he wants to go and get revenge on the man who killed his parents? Right? Should you carry on their legacy, become a businessman, function as a part of Wayne Industries?
Right.
Or should you dress up in a bat suit and fight crime? Not saying that you should take the last option, but it's a question.
These are the extremes at the end of the question.
Another perspective is like mainstream media. Like, this goes back to the source, which is the comics. Like, the comics always portrayed the realities of what could and what can happen.
Yeah.
And so making a film off of comic-based characters, you will get a level of reality to that. Like, I think mainstream media doesn't show these things because, it's like we have this culture. Like, good things happen, bad things happen, and the good guys make the bad things go away.
Yes, that's like the basic formula most of the
not
previous
always
movies.
Like that in the comics. The comics tells a more real story. It shows you branches of this action and this consequence.
You got examples in the comics that, there's alcoholism, there's infidelity, there's drug use, there's
Roy Harper.
Yep.
There's
big time Roy Harper.
Huge dark things in the comics, and I think this is something that will indeed kind of shake it and people aren't fully prepared to see that visual media in front of them. It's different when you have like kind of a small thing. I say
like
small.
the TV shows, like Young Justice has focused on that.
Right, because the cinematic universes, they avoid it completely. Like, there's only a hint of Iron Man's alcoholism in Iron Man 2.
Yes, and that's only because he thinks he's dying.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, but in these movies, we've seen that you can handle these matters of serious import, especially because Christopher Nolan's Batman did it.
Yeah.
Look at The Last Joker. The Last Joker was a perfect example of anarchy.
Well, he wasn't the last Joker. But
Well, I'm sorry. The
last important Joker.
Right. Hey. We're not gonna get on Leto. We're not. That's gonna be a distraction.
All right.
Leto was important to a degree. Leto walked so Joaquin could run. I'm just saying.
He was the buffer after an amazing Joker.
Listen. Okay. My point being is that Ledger's Joker covered subjects of anarchy and terrorism. And the fact that terrorists can force the public to make decisions.
Right.
Right?
Right.
What would you do in this situation if you're on the barge as a prisoner, as an inmate, or as a regular citizen? Do you press the button? Right? It proposed a real life comparable situation.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I feel like there would be no difference than the people who might be in a terrorist situation, or their ship has been taken by pirates and they're placed into this position where they have to make this decision that weighs their life against someone else. A movie can touch on that.
Yeah. And let's be honest, that movie was a lot more optimistic than real life, because more than likely people would have pressed that button in real life.
I mean, not to be, necessarily judging anyone, but if you have to extrapolate on probability, maybe the inmates may have, decided that would have been a thing.
Yes.
But that's...
It would have ruined the point of the movie.
Right.
This is like our first big villain-themed movie in a while.
Yes.
Even with Venom, they made Venom look more like a hero.
Well, that's particularly his Lethal Protect arc.
Yeah,
Where
because
he's
they
an
were going
anti-hero.
that direction. They were going the anti-hero direction.
That's what I'm saying. Is like this movie is going to shake things up
this
because
is our first big villain movie.
Yeah.
And it might be the future of, new ones.
This is the perfect point right before we get to our next topic. I think we should finish our closing statements on this, but definitely we will be seeing a new direction in DC. Now, each of us, we're just going to give a brief overview of how we feel, just kind of a conclusion around the room. Obviously, I think we're all in agreement that we don't think that this movie entices violence. I think it is a movie that is going to make you think. I don't think people should be so worried about whether somebody's going to come and shoot them.
Right. So, in my conclusions, I would like to say that the real issue here, as far as publicity, as well as the motivations for someone to maybe take a course of action in regards to this movie and what the media is predicting, is the media itself. It's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more that they speak about, and kind of incentivize someone to take action for notoriety, the more it is likely to happen. And it feels to me as if they're hoping that it will happen. And I find that to be utterly contemptible and something that I deeply disagree with. And I am going to go support this movie because I am a huge fan of Joaquin Phoenix and the Joker, and I have no interest in being scared off or away from it by the media in due cause because of this.
Devontae?
Joker. Good movie? Yes. Gonna make you a psychopath? No.
Very well put. How about you, Matt? What's your final say in it?
I think it's going to be an excellent movie. I think it's going to be a really good thought piece. And that's really it. I think it's going to be fantastic, and I think the controversy surrounding it's kind of...
Send in the clowns.
Fluff.
All right, guys. Obviously, we had a lot to say about the Joker. Now we're going to focus on something else dealing with the DC universe. There's been a lot of reports dealing with a reboot. Obviously, DC, ever since Justice League, they've been trying to take it with a different direction. They already had Aquaman under, they had it already finished after Justice League pretty well tanked. So they had that. Turned out fantastic in the box office. It did really well. It was much more vibrant, much more kind of campy, especially compared to Justice League and Batman v Superman. People enjoyed it. It was a good time movie. Wasn't, one of the greatest ones ever written, but it was a good one. So obviously DC's trying to figure out how they're going to go around about this thing. So there's been a lot of rumors and speculation that they're doing a soft reboot. Well, they're very happy with how James Gunn's handling the Suicide Squad. They're happy with Matt Reeves with the Batman, how he's trying to take this more detective approach with the series. And then they just finished signing on officially with J.J. Abrams, a big deal with Warner Media. It's not been confirmed that he's going to be dealing with DC, but they gave him a huge, I think it was $100 million for this deal. And he can deal with anything with their movies, TV shows, their video game properties, all of that stuff. They gave him basically free reign over Warner Media. And he is a huge DC fan. In fact, before Man of Steel came out, there was a Superman project he was trying to work on. And it was actually Henry Cavill he had in the suit to test this movie out. It didn't happen, didn't work out. But now the rumor is he's going to become their Kevin Feige. And he is close friends with Matt Reeves, and most people in the industry get along really well with James Gunn. So from the rumors is he's going to work together with these two and form a new universe. So we're just going to give our opinions on that, because I'm honestly excited, because Justice League, in my opinion, was rushed. Obviously, they were trying to catch up with Marvel. They figured out that wasn't going to work for them. And now they seem to have their ship better on course now. Matt, what's your thought on all this?
I'm really, really excited because I would like to see... I made a comment to friends of mine after I saw Justice League that if they never wanted to make another Justice League movie, I would be perfectly okay with that. Because while it was not the best live-action interpretation of Justice League, it wasn't the worst thing to come out of the DCEU.
No, not at all.
See, on my side of it, I am on the opposite end. The closer DC becomes to the MCU, the less happy I am. I am not a fan of the MCU style for DC characters.
I don't think we're going to get that. I think we'll get something completely different. I think that's...
yeah, I saw Justice League, and that's what I felt.
Yeah, that, and then they realized that they didn't need that.
Right, yes. And Aquaman had some of the same vibes as Guardians of the Galaxy.
And that was when they were still trying to do, let's copy off of Marvel. They figured out that doesn't work for us. We're our own thing.
Right, so I prefer a darker DC. I prefer that they did allow things to play out as they should. The problem is that for some strange reason, when you look at Snyder's films, specifically Henry Cavill's roles in them, you have to be true to the character before you be true to your setting. So If you want to make a dark DC, no matter what you do, you can't make Superman dark.
No, that's
and that is the core flaw there. Right? That when we did Batman v Superman, which is reminiscent of The Dark Knight Returns, you can't have a Superman that is a character archetype similar to Batman.
Doesn't work.
Because now it's basically Batman versus Batman. And that ain't something that we're all that interested in.
No.
Right?
Their differences is what brings them together. Batman's distrust of Superman being an alien, whereas Superman is in some ways he's kind of naive at times and over trusting, and
he gets into a position where he can be brought into conflict with Batman. If you tell Superman that Batman's a criminal, hunting Gotham, hurting people, branding them with a giant bat symbol, then perhaps there might be an incentive for Superman to conflict with Batman. But when the conflict source is, I am Lex Luthor, I have kidnapped your mother. Your mother's name is Martha.
That was just a mess.
Now we have an issue. So I don't want the failures of I'm going to count Wonder Woman in this, but Wonder Woman was a really good movie. And I really supported Wonder Woman.
I agree.
Yeah. But the subject matters that were so dark, I really appreciate. And I would like that to remain in whatever new reboot of the DC universe that there is.
I really think that they will stay in that direction, because look who's the director for Batman. Matt Reeves does not do bright films. He's not
Look at the
Disney
Planet of the
type
Apes films.
Yes, he's not the Disney type director.
Right, which is a perfectly wonderful dark universe.
Yes.
So that's what I want out of it.
And he's said time and time again, he's not going to so much focus on the action aspects as a lot of other Batman directors have. He's going to focus on the detective aspect, which is it's great. I mean, he has a comic book called Detective Comics.
We haven't seen detective style Batman since
Ever.
there was bits and pieces in Batman Begins and bits
there's
and
bits and pieces,
and
but
Dark
they never
Knight.
focused on it. It wasn't the main.
Focused on it.
Well, it got overridden by the fact that Lucius Fox Tech removed the need
Yes.
for that.
Yes.
Like, the moment that you signal hack the entire city, who needs to be a detective? Right? I have all the information at my hand, which is actually the case. He's just like, oh, well, hey, figure out where this person is. I have it. We got it. No need to ask questions. Hook up to the machine.
And this is obviously a new Batman, a new universe. Because at first they were trying to say this could be like a younger version of Ben Affleck's Batman, all this and that. Not the case whatsoever. They're not, months ago they finally said Ben Affleck's not a part of it. That's great. And then we actually got some casting, not officially confirmed, but people are pretty certain. A lot of insiders are certain that Jeffrey Wright is going to play James Gordon. Well, I don't think that Jeffrey Wright and J.K. Simmons look alike. So
yeah,
obviously this is a different Batman universe.
We can lock in the reboot.
Yes.
And it's not going to be a strange thing where there's, there's no need to be concerned that Leto was perhaps the same Joker from Batman v Superman.
Right.
No need to get confused about any of that. It's just going to be a hard reset.
And the only thing, I guess they can make it work with James Gunn's Suicide Squad with some of the same characters. I mean, I guess it wouldn't be that hard. There's so many different multiverses. You could just essentially say that version of Harley Quinn and the Wall and all the others.
Gotta love Amanda Waller.
Yes. Obviously, they could just say, "Hey, this is just another version of them," and then have them just slightly different.
Maybe not immediately jump into the multiverse contention. I mean, Marvel took a decade to get there. I'm not saying that you have to be like Marvel, but multiverses make things confusing.
Well,
you have instances where people have reprised characters in
different versions
in different franchises before. Michael Gough, who played Alfred Pennyworth in the 1989 Batman, also came in. He did 5 movies.
Yeah,
he did all 3 Tim Burton movies, and he did both of the Joel Schumacher movies.
2 Tim Burton movies.
So, and we had him go and pop up in Batman and Robin and Batman Forever, so we could have situations like that, where it's not necessarily, we have to have that, this is a multiverse thing. People can see it and be like, okay.
We understand it's a different.
And who we have classed as Harley, I don't think we're going to get Will Smith back for Deadshot.
No.
But...
No, he's not. He was too busy with
Gemini Man?
No, it's actually with the Bad Boys movie.
You have to do that. Martin Lawrence just got out of that coma.
That was a couple of years back, but he's just now getting his
career
back on. Yeah, his career back on set.
So that's important. We understand why we're not going to see Deadshot anymore. Maybe this time Deadshot will be a little bit more comic accurate.
Yeah, I don't want Deadshot to be Will Smith being Will Smith. I don't want that at all.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. A little bit more comic accurate.
I don't think Idris Elba is not going to play Deadshot. That is not his character at all.
No.
It's the big rumor is it's going to be Sportsmaster, and they casted Storm Reed, who was from she was from that movie with Oprah Winfrey and Mindy Kaling with Disney.
Yes.
A Wrinkle in Time. She was the main actress from that. She is going to play in the movie, and it is expected that she is going to play his daughter. So we might be getting Artemis or his other daughter. Cheshire.
Yes.
Yeah. So that would be fantastic. They'll probably play a smaller role in the movie, but it could open doors.
That's cool.
Maybe open a door to possibly hinting towards the existence of a different Titans group.
That's the name of the game.
Outlaws.
Yeah, or the Outlaws.
Or they could totally go a completely different route and just make Idris Elba Deadshot again.
I don't think they will.
They could.
I really think it's going to be... A lot of people are pointing towards Sportsmaster.
I would much prefer that over them recasting Deadshot, but I'm saying don't be surprised if it happens.
If it happens, it happens.
And it is Idris Elba, so there'll be quality regardless.
Yes. He's fantastic.
I still need him as Jon Stewart.
Yeah, yes. That would be great.
That is the actual casting that we should ask.
Yes.
But hey, it's going to be forever before they ever touch Green Lantern again.
Well, I mean, they do have Nathan Fillion in the movie.
Mm.
Never know. He has done the voice of Hal. How many years he's done Hal Jordan's
Across
voice?
the animated series.
Yeah, for quite a while.
He's been doing it since
yeah.
20, not
Early
he didn't do it-
2000s.
He didn't do it for are recounting the animated extended universe.
Yes,
Mhm.
of course.
Okay, because that started in 2014, and he wasn't the initial Green Lantern then. He didn't come in until Throne of Atlantis, but he has been a staple with the
Since
series
then.
since then.
Yeah, he's a staple. I think he even did. Did he do Injustice Hal Jordan voice?
No, he did not
He
do
didn't?
Injustice
Okay.
Hal Jordan.
But still,
That was Steve Bloom.
he fantastic voice actor, known for Wolverine and so many other. I know that's random, but Steve Bloom is a big voice
X-Men,
actor.
the animated series.
Yeah, he's one of the greats. But I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank.
Well, I think that we have pretty much covered the issue of
Yes.
the reboot.
Yeah,
I found that I am personally tentatively invested. If it becomes something bright and poppy, I am just not going to be a fan of it. So I'm hoping that it remains dark. It doesn't have to be gritty. It doesn't have to be grim dark. It doesn't have
but
to be
it
the
doesn't
boys.
have to have the vibrancy of Marvel. It doesn't
Right.
have to be where there's some serious situation and they make a joke in the middle of it.
What was one of the big songs for Justice League? It was Icky Thump by the White Stripes.
Yeah,
I'm like, no, thank you.
it
I'm
didn't
good.
match.
Like
It didn't
that-
match.
Well, no, because it also felt like Guardians of the Galaxy. You know what I'm saying? I'm just like, here is this song that is meant to make you pop, and I'm like, no, we good. I don't need Icky Thump for.
What you're seeing there is Zack Snyder's influence. To a T.
Well, he did to help make the movie, and there's still people that want the Snyder cut for whatever reason. They just need to drop that.
People have faith in Snyder.
Yeah.
I do not have faith in Superman as Jesus.
Yes.
That's all I have to say about it.
Coming out of the rumor mill, there's also talks that Jeremy Irons could return as Alfred for the Batman. And there's also, coming out of the rumor mill, is that, I'm going to butcher his name, but Joe Manganiello, or
Oh, the guy who plays Deathstroke.
the guy that plays Deathstroke, is supposed to make an appearance too.
That would be great. You know, I think he has that perfect build for Deathstroke, and he loves the character.
And he looks fantastic.
Yes, he
In
was on
costume.
point. Yes, and
I'm always happy to see the Terminator.
yes, and Jonah Hill. You know, most people are thinking Penguin. He actually wants to play the Riddler. Apparently, according to rumors, he wants to play the Riddler really badly. They want him to be Penguin, but he's not that fat kid anymore. I mean, no offense, but he's not in that shape, and he doesn't want to be known as that guy, obviously, as much as he's tried to lose weight and stuff, because in his beginning career he was super bad and all those 40-year-old virgin.
He was typecasted.
He's typecast. He doesn't want to be in. He's been in so many big movies now that he feels like he deserves.
A little bit of flexibility.
Even look what they did with him with War Dogs.
Yeah.
They made him put weight on to do
Yes.
War Dogs,
Yeah, they
and
did.
he doesn't want to go through that again.
No, he likes being in the shape he's in
I
now.
think he can do Riddler.
I think he could do
I
Riddler
think
too.
he can too.
Well, apparently he wants more money than what they're giving their main star too.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Allegedly
I mean, you're
10
not-
million?
Yeah.
He is kind of a bigger name than him
It
right
doesn't
now.
matter. What you're casting him for is a Batman villain.
Yeah.
No one gets paid more than Batman.
In the world of Marvel, the villains get paid more than the heroes half the time, unless it's Robert Downey Jr.
Look, let me explain to you something about how tragic that is, because most of Marvel villains are not very amazing.
No, well, that's because they already know. Oh, we're gonna
Well,
have them for like one movie, and then we'll
as
kill
that
them.
is the case, but the star power behind those villains, Kate Blanchett, Michael B. Jordan, Andy Serkis,
They do it on purpose.
yeah.
They get big names for the villain roles, and then most of the time they kill them off in one movie.
Look at the first Iron Man villain that we had, which was Jeff Bridges.
Yes.
Yeah. Ironmonger.
Yeah.
Very happy about it. Too bad
Yes.
he's dead.
Yeah.
Like, there's weight with those names. So like, while they mishandle the characters, the money is there.
We have to go on, because since we're in this section, I'm going to start complaining about the Mandarin as the biggest
Yes,
Iron
we
Man
cannot get on that
fanboy.
topic
So
because
let's-
we're on the DC road.
Right, let's continue on.
Well, Jonah Hill's a big name now. I think he'd be fantastic as the Riddler. Obviously, if they're looking at these castings, I really feel more confident that they are trying to go for the long Halloween type of.
I think so too.
It has to be something that's kind of The Riddler's not a standalone villain. It's very unfortunate to say that.
No,
You're not going to get a Batman v Riddler one.
Well, they already said it wasn't going to be set in the first year of Batman, anyways.
I don't think the Riddler can carry the villain role by himself. He needs at least a henchman of some word. Like you have to stick him together with somebody, Clayface. Or...
I think if he wraps his head in bandages and claims to be somebody else, he'll do just fine.
You mean like the terrible Batman Hush movie?
God.
Do not get Matt started on that for our viewers.
But that's a perfect example, though.
Yes.
If even just in the comics, it's Hush and Riddler, right?
The podcast as a whole does not recommend that you see Batman Hush the animated movie because it basically just...
Read the comic.
Yeah, to read the comic, they basically just stomp on all over the Hush like graphic novel name.
If you're not a fan of comics, you'll love it. It'll be fun.
Well, I don't know. They might not like it because it makes no sense.
Look, all I gotta say is that whatever the animated universe is doing, they need to stop because it started with that 30-minute ad to the Killing Joke, which was unnecessary, and I have disliked everything.
Okay,
since.
No. The universe is a completely separate thing than the Killing Joke. That's not fair.
Yeah,
I don't care.
That's completely unfair. You can't lump them in the same category when they're two separate entities. You can't do that.
But I'm bitter.
You can be bitter because the Killing Joke as a film was not good.
They did not do service right.
However, I still feel like it's in the same exact realm as Hush. It's just there. It's just all bad. They gotta stop.
But
what he's talking about, like the movies that are connected to a animated universe already. There's the Justice League movies that they've been making, the Batman movies they've been making, and then they make side movies that are based off of popular graphic novels, like the one that they're coming out with, Superman and the Red Sun. I'm certain that they'll ruin that too.
But you also get instances like with the animated universe where they can handle material really well because the Batman versus Robin film that came out of that universe is all about the Court of Owls. And they handled that one really well.
They did a good job.
So that's why I was super ready and excited for when Hush was coming along because I was like, they did so well with the first one. Yes, having read the comic, I'm going to have an idea, but they can change things up just like they did with the Court of Owls.
But they did good changes with that.
Yes.
They did bad changes with this. They have a lot of hit and misses with their animated universe, like Justice League versus the Teen Titans. I'm sorry, I hated it. It was stupid.
Yeah, it was not good.
No, it did disservice to Justice League and to the Teen Titans.
They did not do the Judas contract well at all.
No, don't even.
Well, first off, you can't combine certain things.
No,
you cannot. Some things have to stand alone. Judas contract is one of them. That is a film by itself. But as we proceed.
Yeah, obviously we have gotten a little off track, but it's all things comic book and so many things are connected to each other, so our opinions are more than just singular. So in conclusion, I'm more into the line of being excited about the future of DC. They had a very bumpy start because they were trying so hard to be something they weren't. They tried to be so opposite of Marvel that they went too hard, and then after they realized that didn't work, they tried too hard to be like Marvel, and now they're finally figuring out we need to do our own thing. And I think that obviously with the people that they're attaching to these films and to this universe, I think they're on the right track.
Definitely for star power.
Yes.
So what's next?
We shall see.
So after all of that, I have to say that we had some interesting news back with Disney. Disney announced that Kevin Feige is going to be developing a Star Wars film. The man known for creating the MCU, the mastermind behind it all. I have no idea how he's going to have time to make a Star Wars movie since he's involved in 6 million films at the same time with Marvel, but apparently he is a huge Star Wars fan. I've watched a clip when he was on the Star Wars show, and he was one of those huge Star Wars nerds that had the first, tabletop Star Wars book, and he would read it front to back. He would play it with friends. He is a huge Star Wars fan, so that's fantastic.
Star Wars sagas.
Yes.
Good stuff.
Yes. And so the question with that is there's actually 2 questions. One, what is his movie going to pertain to, obviously? And 2, is this a little dip in the water for him to see if maybe he has a new role for Disney, maybe in Lucasfilm.
Perhaps Kathleen Kennedy's job.
Yes, perhaps becoming the mastermind of Star Wars.
I don't know if he's going to take Kathleen Kennedy's job.
Well, somebody has to.
Yes.
I think what they'll do is they'll leave her in that position, but they'll give him creative direction.
But I mean, he doesn't seem like, in front of a camera, he doesn't seem like the type with an ego. But a man who's been the president of the MCU this long, I'm sure he's going to want the president's role of Lucas.
But he also has all the stresses of one role. Why would he want to put himself in another one?
Because he would take over and he wouldn't worry about Marvel anymore. Obviously, he would have somebody else take over his spot.
Might be a good time to leave one ship for another.
Yes.
Even though both ships are arguably sinking. A little bit.
Well, with Star Wars, they obviously need more help.
Yes.
You know, no one's super pissed off at Marvel as a whole like they are at Star Wars. So many people were upset after The Last Jedi. I mean, people were kind of upset at The Force Awakens because it was basically just a copy and paste of the original movie.
So it's the quintessential question.
Yes.
Can Kevin Feige save Star Wars?
Yes.
You think so?
I vote yes.
He votes yes.
I'm going to argue no.
I am on the side of no. It is impossible. That ship is dead in the water.
You gotta break it.
I think that with the general populace, you can bring it back. Maybe not to hardcore fans who have already made up their decision.
That's my no.
Yeah, but to the general populace, they can make it where everybody loves it again.
But see, Star Wars can never be Marvel.
No,
Okay.
it can't.
So y'all said no. What would make you come back and be a Star Wars fan?
For me, I would love if
What would
they
it
gave
take?
the presidency over to Dave Filoni. He obviously, the man lives and breathes Star Wars. He was there during the Lucas days.
He was my choice.
Yes.
Long before Kathleen Kennedy was announced.
And during all the insanity over at the Skywalker Ranch, he is still there to this day trying to get the good fight. He's trying to hold on to the old ways and all the old lore as long as he can.
I mean, that would be a step in the right direction. Yes.
That would be the thing that would bring me back. If they came out and they said all this lore that's been around for 40 years that, you know, we've said it's not canon, we're actually going to dig into it and
But
do a
they're
little bit more
already-
with it.
They are digging into it.
Right. Hypocritically, they're already diving into the EU. And I respect the decision.
We had Thrawn over in Star Wars Rebels. That's one of the biggest, EU characters. They brought him in.
Because that puts Thrawn directly in the exact same world as The Last Order.
Yes.
So, because Rebels deals with both.
Yes.
So, Thrawn is canon.
Yes.
there's a somebody caught a picture in the Star Wars script in Galaxy's Edge that says
Their theme park.
Yeah,
Yes.
the theme park that Luke's wife lives. Mara Jade
Yeah, they said Mara Jade
lives. And I don't know if that's some fan that scrawled that in, but it looks like it's officially printed.
Could be an Easter egg, kind of like, just kind of like an inside joke with them because, everybody that was familiar with the EU loved that storyline.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, well, some of it.
Some of it, but
the clone of Luke, maybe not necessarily.
No,
See,
but-
and see, that's the kind of stuff that I would like to see. Is I'm a fan of, because he can't do it now, but because Mark Hamill's older, but possibly with de-aging, if we could get an evil Luke clone, that would be cool.
You actually want to do Luke with
You know
two
what?
U's?
what?
I love that. That's how they do clones in
That's how-
Star Wars.
Oh my
is you
God.
add an additional consonant, so it's
Yeah.
Luke.
What they could do, they keep wanting to bring more things to Disney Plus. They find any way they can. What they could do is not a live action, but an animated series focused on the like a big EU storyline.
Yeah,
Well,
like they're doing with the what ifs.
Yeah,
Or-
what ifs. Yeah.
Or
Do it
you
Star
can
Wars
also
style.
use animation to pad things that we're missing out. Because,
Yes.
I mean, let's be honest here, right? The prequels, and I'm a prequel fan, were a solid 7.5, 8. You add the Clone Wars to the prequels, and the prequels become a much better
Yes,
series.
there's so
Yeah.
much stuff you find out.
Yes.
Like, if you've watched the Clone Wars, the prequels are like...
You appreciate
Boom.
so much more.
Anakin's devolution through the overarching Clone Wars.
Makes more
It's-
sense. Yeah.
It
So
pads so much out. It's not as sharp. It's smooth as silk. It's wonderful.
Yes,
and
because from episode 2 to episode 3, it's very, without that.
Honestly, audiences have to wait 3 years. Us, we watch those movies back to back. We're like...
Now, the other media that I would like to see them handle is, for the love of God, can I get a Knights of the Old Republic? Please.
Yeah, well,
none of these people can touch it. So you have to get somebody...
Kevin Feige does not need to touch that. That does not need to be a property he needs to touch. Because obviously he's not...
he's old school.
He's old school. He's not a fan of the Knights of the Old Republic. The big rumor that was going around for the longest time is that the guys, which he was not happy when I told him this, but the showrunners from Game of Thrones would be the ones working on
no.
the
Weiss,
Republic.
No.
Because they are making a trilogy for the Star Wars universe.
No.
And he hates how they handled the last few seasons of Game of Thrones.
They fumbled the last 2 seasons.
No. If you imagine what happened with Daenerys happening to Kreia. No. I would blow a gasket.
They would probably ruin Revan altogether.
Right.
See,
we can't let it
Darth
happen.
Revan movie. So you want to ask me how Star Wars wins me back? Give me a Darth Revan movie.
Okay,
I want a Darth Revan. I want the Knights of the Old Republic. The main character should be Revan. Hands down, it should be the start of him before he becomes Darth Revan, before he becomes bad. And then when he becomes... The second movie can be all about his downfall as Darth Revan. And then we can see him coming back.
Mandalore 5 blowing up, that's like everything. If you thought Alderaan was like, wow, Mandalore 5 would be like... But all I gotta say is this. The Skywalker saga, the Skywalker saga is gone.
Just a second, we'll pause.
Yeah, the Skywalker saga is just it's gone. It's not salvageable. Doesn't matter what this 9th movie is. It's going. But if you want to bring me back,
this is a death rattle.
Yeah, if you want to bring me back, if you're going to revive me as a Star Wars fan, you send KOTOR to someone who can do it, and I'll be there again. That is 3 movies. I will be there opening day in a 4-hour line. But it ain't happening for episode 9.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
Does anybody here know anything about Darth Bane?
Yeah.
Give me a Darth Bane movie, please.
I mean,
that's not happening.
It's a little dark for a...
No, that's animated.
Yeah,
in the same way we did Grievous, we could do Bane.
Yes.
And Grievous got a great treatment animated.
Darth Bane would be so cool because I want to see more Sith temples. I want to see, and we
could do Bane, we can do Nihilus, we can do Plagueis, we can do all the great.
See, with all this rich history of Star Wars, I'm kind of concerned where Kevin Feige would lie in because he's obviously old school. So would he try to be like J.J. Abrams all over again and try to do like?
I'm thinking the Star Wars Christmas Story, but that's just me.
That's as old school as you get.
Yes.
I mean,
or would he make it because obviously he's a fan of the tabletop book? Would he make it more of that type of?
Well, I can only imagine, honestly, that he would end up in a similar situation as Solo. That he would be doing a history piece for the Skywalker saga characters. That's the only thing I can really see him fitting in as if he's true to his own desires.
Yeah, because he's more of he's kind of focused on singular.
You can't do any more Skywalker saga. So how do you get a person like Feige in to occupy that role?
Right.
You do a fill-in or not a Rogue One, but it could be also a Rogue One, but something like a Rogue One or a Solo, a slot-in movie that expands the universe without detracting from, canon.
Yeah, his would definitely be a spinoff.
What are characters that we know that are super prominent that we haven't seen much out of?
All right, you ready to get your mind blown?
Yeah.
Right? Qui-Gon Jinn.
Qui-Gon
would yeah, right?
Okay, but he's not...
He would come back.
He's not old school, though. He's not old school.
Oh, you want to do strict original trilogy?
Because when I'm thinking Kevin Feige, I'm thinking strict original trilogy. That's where he lies. Would I love a Qui-Gon Jinn movie? Yes.
I could see him doing like a Boba Fett movie.
Yeah.
I could see him going that direction. We don't need it because we have the Mandalorian. So I don't think they will do it.
Well, we have no idea if the Mandalorian's actually the Mandalorian.
I was thinking of... Because I'll be completely honest, I haven't seen Solo, so I don't know where between when Chewie and Yoda leave Kashyyyk and he meets up with Han Solo. Because I'm thinking if there was like an in-between period right there, what happens after he
Like
comes,
a Chewbacca story.
like a Chewbacca story after he leaves Kashyyyk.
There's a lot of comic books that focus on what Chewbacca does when he's not with Han.
Chewbacca goes for a very long time in the EU,
Yes.
all the way up until they get.
There's
rid
a
of him.
lot of Chewbacca.
I mean, he's amazing.
Yes.
And in books, you can do more than just Wookiee growl.
Yes.
Or if Kevin Feige wanted to do old school, what about a young Yoda movie even?
Ooh.
That would be way. Well, that
Yoda's
wouldn't be Knights of the Old Republic. That would be after.
Yeah, Yoda's old, but not that old.
He's only 900 years old.
Yeah,
Right.
only 900.
But the problem with Yoda is that
And
Yoda's...
apparently he can still talk to us as a ghost.
Yeah.
Apparently he can make lightning strike down. Sorry.
Yoda.
That destroys the entire continuity of the Star Wars universe. Let's just forget that.
You mean like what was it? The midi-chlorians?
No, no. That is a unnecessary expansion of the universe.
Okay, well...
The fact that Force ghosts have been retconned to be able to interact with the physical world, besides like blowing a leaf off a stump, which you could point back to. It blew the lightning, Force lightning. We were in the Emperor's throne room, and Luke desperately needed some help, and Yoda and Obi-Wan could have been there Force lightning the Emperor. All I gotta say about it. It throws things into the wazoo.
It makes a point.
Okay, so I have a counterpoint for that. They could, in reality, not... This could have been a learning point, I don't know. Maybe for Luke, as far as like they can't like interact with what's going on. He has to fight his own battles. But for what was a learning moment for Luke afterwards is like, he's so caught up in these texts that Yoda's like, look, bro, they don't matter. They don't matter at all. And so there he goes and he burns them. So this could be two completely different points.
I mean, it's an argument, yes. But even then, that's redundant. It's like that's the whole problem with these first two movies and the sequel. They're really redundant. All of these things have already been handled. The prequels proved that the old Jedi ways don't work. Luke knows directly via Obi-Wan that they didn't work.
Yes.
So going here and reading 3,000 years of Jedi texts won't work. It's been confirmed across 6 movies that you can't do this to solve problems for the Jedi. The fact that the Jedi stagnated and let Palpatine come into existence is the pinnacle of the reason why those books should have stayed in that tree and Luke should have never been on that planet.
Do you feel that after the events that happened with the Knights of Ren, he was looking for anything and everything he could?
Look, okay, so obviously, right, the first point of guidance would be turn to the Force Ghosts. And obviously, as of The Last Jedi, we see that he didn't get any help from them for some strange reason.
Yes, and then all of a sudden they appear, like Yoda appears at the last minute.
But it's okay, sure.
I have another counterpoint for that. Is that maybe he was too embarrassed to turn, and then when Rey shows up, you're seeing a turning point in Luke, and then the ghosts appear.
The one ghost.
The
That's
one
a
ghost.
stretch.
I mean, the problem is...
just saying.
No. The problem is that, okay, sure, this could all be very valid character development. We didn't see any of it.
That's true.
So
I'm just looking at it from another perspective.
You
Right.
didn't see much of that character development throughout the movie. Just all of a sudden, Luke was okay with helping her.
There's a lot of not character development and a lot of dropped character development in these movies.
Well,
They're bad.
I think this would be a good point for us to take a quick break. Just do a quick conclusion. Obviously, we're not too certain how we feel about Kevin Feige's involvement with Star Wars. We don't. For one, there's not enough information. I don't know. With his background, he likes a lot of the old school Star Wars. So I don't know what he would work on. Maybe, like Dane said, maybe he'll focus on more of a historical piece, maybe a spin-off.
a Rogue One or a Solo.
Solo style film. But until we get more information, I don't think we really have much to go on. I mean, he has a good track record at Marvel. He knows how to piece together a universe, but people feel so burnt out with Star Wars. People might not want somebody to build the universe further. They obviously need to pump the brakes and reflect before they try to build this universe more. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back talking about the biggest news that happened all this week. Spider-Man's back in the MCU. All right, guys. We'll be just right back. All right, everyone, welcome back to the Geek Branch podcast. This is the last topic when it comes to the cinematic movie universe. It's the biggest topic. It's what we've been dying to talk about. Spider-Man's back in the MCU. A lot of my friends who will be watching this know that I'm a huge Spider-Man fan. That's why I'm wearing my Spider-Man shirt to celebrate this fantastic news. I know not everybody is happy that he's back. There are naysayers who call him Iron Man Jr., whatever. You know, I love these movies.
That's his best title.
That is, well, you know, you love Iron Man, so of course you love that title. But after much deliberation, they worked it out. So apparently the rundown is that they weren't playing games with us. Spider-Man really was out of the MCU. At the beginning, when they were doing negotiations, it was with Disney bigwigs and Sony Studios and Sony Japan that all got together. Well, they don't understand or appreciate the character that is Spider-Man. And so when that happened, they were all arguing over money. They didn't understand how his character was so integral, the way they designed him to be part of the MCU. They couldn't have, I mean, there was so much part of his character that was connected to Disney that they would have had to redone so much for that third movie. It would have made no sense to most people. They would have had to change the costume. They would have not been able to mention about any of his past interactions with the Avengers. Couldn't mention about his relationship with Iron Man. They probably couldn't even mention the villains that he went up against because they had such a close background story with Tony Stark every time. So finally, the night before they announced that Spider-Man was back in the MCU, what happened was that Kevin Feige and some Marvel execs and some Sony execs that were closer to the Spider-Man situation got together and they hammered out a deal. So this deal essentially is now Marvel, instead of getting the 5% cut that they were getting before, they get 25%. So that's 1/4 of probably another $1 billion box office hit on top of the merchandising they already get off the Spider-Man films. And also, other than just that one solo film, we also get him in an MCU film. Now, there's been a lot of speculation towards which movie he'll be in. Some are thinking that there's going to be a build-up towards Secret Wars. That's going to take a lot of years. I don't necessarily think it's going to be that. There is even more a rumor that makes more sense to me, which is that he will be kind of the entry door for Fantastic Four. They've been teasing the Baxter Building for a while now with his movies, with Homecoming, with seeing that the Avengers were moving out of the tower and everything like that. There's rumors of that going on. And of course, my favorite part of the rumor is that they're saying John Krasinski is probably going to be Mr. Fantastic. That is my dream cast for Mr. Fantastic. I will be up in arms if they don't cast him as that. But nevertheless, we are hearing fantastic news about Spider-Man. And I know the rest of the guys are excited as well.
Oh, I mean, more or less.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong here, is that in the great fight between Marvel and Sony, I am on Sony's side. So that is a strange position that most people won't agree with, but I was perfectly okay with Sony running away with the wheel that they let Marvel borrow because it's a smart decision. The problem is that Marvel has set a really excellent trap as Far From Home, because you can't resolve any of Spider-Man's stuff.
No, that didn't make no sense.
Right. So Marvel got them. It's true. Sony couldn't just run off with the character and reboot. But I'm still more than happy to see Spider-Man, after the conclusion of Phase 3 of the MCU, go over there and hang out with Venom.
But see, that's the thing. They're figuring out a way to work with Sony to where he can go back and forth. And me and Matt were actually discussing about this rumor, and me and him were both like, really? Why would they try to make this movie? But now, after the deal came out, the rumor that we discussed about and we were confused about was apparently they're working towards a Madam Web movie.
Yeah.
So,
which establishes the Spider-Man multiverse.
Yes, it would establish that, and it would explain how we could have Tom Holland in the MCU and have him in the Spider-Verse. they can have their cake and eat it too, essentially. They can have him go over to the Spider-Verse, do some movies with Venom and Carnage, and do some other stuff, and then he could go over to Marvel.
If they decide to do that, what they need to do is at the end of whatever this next movie is, I need to kick him through and he like drop into the dirt somewhere and be like, okay, I have no idea where I'm at.
Yes, and then have Madam Web show up.
And then have Madam Web show up. And then his chest. And
I don't think they'll do it though. I really don't.
I feel like they need to drop him in before because there needs to be a reason Venom's got that spider on his chest other than...
Well, look, it's basic iconography.
Everybody knows Venom with that symbol.
So it's not necessary. It actually doesn't become a problem until Spider-Man appears.
Yes.
And then we're like, why do we both have spiders on our chest? But before that, without Spider-Man ever being in the Venom verse, you have no reason. Like, if both Venom and Carnage appear with the spiders on their chest, you don't have to question it.
When you get something that's iconic as that, and it's the same way that I was talking to some friends of mine yesterday because we were talking about Star Wars, is that when you hear a planet like Coruscant, you know the importance of it.
Right.
You know what it brings to the table. So when you see something that is that iconic on his chest, it lets a lot of little red flags go off in your head because you know what that means. You know what it could potentially bring to the table. You can't just have some imagery like that and then just be like, okay, well, we it's because it's part of the character.
They could have some sort of connection to where they could say they dropped him before Venom, and he has some sort of connection somehow. Somehow he touched the symbiote. Maybe I don't know how it could work, but if
like I said,
I
don't think it's necessary.
I'm not so concerned about it because obviously he's a different Spider-Man. He's from a different universe. So, they could essentially say that, not that Venom is the Spider-Man of that universe, but he would be the
closest thing they have to
it in that world.
Yeah.
That's what they could essentially say.
Right. I mean, see, for me, right, the whole premise going into the next Venom movie, which is Venom versus Carnage,
Obvious.
goes just absolutely off the wall if we get a full symbiote saga for the third movie of that trilogy.
Yes. But
with Spider-Man.
Yes, Spider-Man's obviously going to be involved in one way or another in Venom 2 now. He has a door open for him. There will probably be some tease with him at the end of the movie, and they'll probably do a big movie with him with the three of them in the third.
Do you think it could be like a collateral kind of thing, like Venom and Carnage have been back and forth to the city, and Madam Web's like, we need somebody to come in here and wrangle both of these?
My question is how would Venom and Carnage facing against each other, why would that prompt Madam Web to bring him in? Because it would have to be something bigger. Because Madam always brings him into bigger things.
It's stronger than Venom, so...
No, Carnage isn't stronger than Venom.
He's smarter than Venom.
Well, yes. It's only because Cletus Cassidy's insane. It's kind of the same way that Joker outsmarts Batman.
Yeah.
Carnage is more durable than Venom. Venom is stronger. Venom is bigger, badder, stronger. Carnage is nearly indestructible. Because he is bonded not just to Cletus like Venom is bonded to Eddie. He's infused into Cletus's very cells.
Yeah.
You can never rip Carnage off of Cletus.
Whereas Eddie doesn't always want to be Venom.
Yes.
Cletus always wants to be Carnage.
Right.
Because it goes so well with his...
Well, they perfectly melded together. Yeah. So what happens is that the scene that you saw in Venom where Riot and Venom are fighting and the symbiotes are getting ripped off of each other and it leaves both of the hosts vulnerable, Carnage never has that weakness. It's just
Cletus
never going to be...
wants to be Carnage. There's nothing to tear them apart.
Well, they're one unified being.
Yes.
They are Carnage. Unlike Venom, which refers to itself as we, Carnage refers to itself as I.
Because it is one person now.
Right.
It's transcended both the symbiote and the person.
But I would be interested how they would explain that would be an important enough reason to bring the Spider-Man into that fight, because Venom and Carnage are fighting each other. What is any different from that, from any cosmic level threat that Spider-Man's already dealt with?
Well, maybe you just don't have a deep enough understanding of Carnage.
Yes, he can kill a lot.
No. You don't understand. Carnage can possess an entire planet.
That's true.
If you remember
If they
the
go that
comic
route,
series
yeah.
Carnage USA,
Yeah, they could go that route.
Carnage could literally just start taking over people.
Yeah.
Okay, but what is Tom Holland going to bring to the table to
Handle Carnage?
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, he is one of the... They don't focus on that so much in the MCU, but he is one of the smartest people in the Marvel Comics. He's one of the top 10 at least.
Are we going to get Peter Parker fighting Carnage, or are we going to get Spider-Man fighting Carnage?
Well, I definitely think that in a world where Venom already exists as a hero, it's going to be Peter Parker rather than Spider-Man.
Okay, and if they kick him into the multiverse and this random Peter Parker shows up, who's going to listen to him?
Well, Eddie is a little bit more open to these things by now.
Yes.
And he also can just get a free pass from Venom. Like, Venom as a character that they've characterized the symbiote is really cool because in the comics he doesn't really have a voice per se. In the movie they give him a full voice and personality, and in Venom's just like, I like him, Eddie. And that's all it takes to get that ball
you're all
rolling.
right with me, kid.
Right. That's all it takes to get that ball rolling. See, the question is, right?
That could be the connection with the symbiote and Peter. There could be in the second movie, Venom and Eddie start arguing with each other. That connection's not as strong, and possibly the symbiote
Abandons Eddie for a little bit.
Yeah, abandons him for Peter.
It's a reversal of what actually happens in the comics, where the symbiote leaves Spider-Man. It goes to Eddie.
That would make things interesting.
Pete breaks off with the symbiote, it crawls back to Eddie, and it's pissed off, and Eddie's pissed off because Pete took the symbiote from him. Or
he might have tried to contain him like Peter does.
Right. Yeah, see, because Parker is really, there's no other way of really describing it, really prejudiced against symbiotes.
Oh, yes.
And he never gets over it, despite it never actually does anything to him.
It's his own fault. It's his own emotions.
Right. Because, like, Reed Richards tells Spider-Man, which would be really awesome if we could actually get that, but I don't see how that plays in, obviously.
No.
But Reed Richards tells Spider-Man that the symbiote is a conscious being. Now, Venom never spoke to Spider-Man. Venom just pretended to be a suit. But it had been conscious, and it had been liberating Spider-Man. You're free to be the person you want to be.
They could get that connection if they decide, instead of going the route of him getting Eddie's symbiote, maybe he already had a symbiote while he was at in the MCU verse. You know what I mean?
Well, or conversely, one of the primary reasons why he is there is that it's not Madam Web pulling Spider-Man in, but Madam Web containing a symbiote.
Right.
So imagine a symbiote breaks into the MCU, gets in contact with Spider-Man,
Peter,
and then they have to pull both of them back. Because Madam Web doesn't have exact control over who she pulls between dimensions.
Yes,
and it's attached to him.
They have to have a reason to...
And then we have a perfect setup.
Yeah, we have a perfect setup.
It's something that Eddie's familiar with. It's something that... We can also get Carnage Peter, which...
I don't think they're going to go that route.
No, I understand. But my point being is that that's a power that Carnage has.
I think they would go with Toxic before they would go with Carnage.
Could be. Yeah. Toxin. Yeah. Or Poison. There's plenty of choices that they can
have
make.
A lot of choices with the symbiotes.
To just have a symbiote extra-dimensionally escape and be the primary motivation for Spider-Man coming into the Venomverse.
Something else that they could do is, like, and I know it would be a lot for a third movie to pull off, but if they could somehow fit in Spider-Man 3, there's this random black goo that they make reference to, or maybe Pete's walking through Oscorp and there's this brand new scientist, and maybe Pete's like in some like super secret part for whatever reason because he's smart, and there's somebody that you don't recognize, and he's looking at a clipboard and he's working for Oscorp, but he's looking at the symbiote, and you turn around, the name tag says Reed Richards or something like that. Build upon a couple different things before he does make that jump.
Well, there's 2 movies to do so. Right, 2 movies in like half of Phase 4, I would assume.
What if they did the third movie, pulled him for the symbiote, and then the cameo in the other movie is him coming back in for Fantastic Four? They're like, you remember that time that,
right?
He
comes back, he's like, wait a second, that guy was just from Oscorp. How the heck does he have this whole building to himself now?
Yeah.
I mean, there's plenty of interesting things they could do to like splice the multiverse in, and there is a really good way of carrying through. And one of the things I think is really important is that if they look at the success of Spider-Verse,
Yes.
right? Spider-Verse is another way of bridging the two universes.
Yes.
And if you have their third movie for the Venom series is Venomverse, which is literally the Venoms invading, it would be fucking amazing, wouldn't it?
The Venoms with the parasites.
Yeah, right. See, if you do Venomverse in the MCU, that would be a total crossover thing, right?
Venomize Doctor Strange, venomize Captain America.
Right.
It has to be about
Venom Iron Man, where it just takes a suit. It's just
This whole situation has to be about execution. They have to do it just right. They got to streamline it just right to where it makes sense. Hey, he's actually still in the MCU, but hey, he can go over there. And maybe some of the stuff from over here can end up in the MCU.
I'm a little sad that the way that they handled the multiverse. Like, I like that they brought the introduction.
Well, obviously, we're going to get a lot more of that with Doctor Strange.
Yes.
well, even then, I mean, first off, there's the fake out.
Yeah, I mean,
That
it's Quentin
was-
Beck. You're
Yeah.
gonna,
Yeah.
he's gonna trick you somehow.
I mean, it was very well done.
Yeah.
And I'm just, man, after seeing the end credits and everything, because you're sitting there the entire time wondering how this megalo idiot like pulled a fast one on Nick Fury, because Nick Fury's too paranoid.
Yeah, there was no
Like,
way the real Fury would have ever fell for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we know the answer to that.
Yes,
Yeah.
at least they because they knew
If you haven't seen it
movie
yet, that's
wise,
the twist.
yeah, movie wise, with Nick Fury, the movie would never worked if it was the real Nick Fury.
Right.
If they wanted Nick Fury in the movie, that was the only way it would work.
Because the person who is Nick Fury in the
Yeah.
movie is literally just playing the role.
Yes,
So he's just like, Spider-Man, I need you to get on this train and go here. And I'm like,
because Samuel L. Jackson
Nick, are you sure?
is the real role.
Right. No, I'm just saying. But
That's
you have
what I
to,
said, too.
right. But you have to be like, Nick, are you sure you want to spin Spider-Man here? Are anything else you want to pad out?
Not that I don't think that like Nick Fury would ever do it, but do you think like when the person that was portraying Nick Fury was like getting his character ready, he was like, would he tranquilize children? Yeah, he would tranquilize children.
He's like, he's just like, they're just humans, right? It doesn't matter which one I shoot.
He would, especially since he wasn't like exactly the goodest of Skrulls at Captain Marvel's movie.
Right. But it's okay. It's fine. It's funny.
It is funny.
But I have high hopes for Sony and Spider-Man.
I do too.
And Marvel could benefit vastly from this
Yes.
if they play their cards right. A cooperation enables much more than the divide.
Mm-hmm.
I had one little last note. While you want John Krasinski,
Yes.
and a lot of people want John Krasinski and Emily Blunt, if I don't get Michael Chiklis returning
For the thing.
for the thing, I will be upset. I need him as Ben Grimm.
Now, people might be wondering why the heck would you talk about the Fantastic Four while you're trying to discuss about Spider-Man? Fantastic Four and Spider-Man have a huge connection with each other.
Rich history. between
Rich
the two.
history. Especially, I want to see Spider-Man and Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, interact with each other. Their relationship is one of the most memorable relationships in the Marvel comic universe.
Well, first off, there's just a crap ton of heroes in New York.
Yes.
There are way too many.
Yes.
so interactions are just not that hard to come by.
No.
Like, no offense, but if Spider-Man wanted to go see Daredevil, it's like
You'll
a
just
quick
swing over
20
there, yeah.
minute swing away.
Hey, man.
That's one of the things, I know it's completely unrelated, but that's one of the things that I loved so much about the Spider-Man PlayStation 1 games, is because there's a level where you're swinging and you're doing stuff, and then Daredevil lands in and he's like, no.
Yeah,
And then he
remember
leaves, and then Human Torch flies in at one point in
Punisher's
time.
in it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Because
like-
New York has too many heroes.
I've always said that.
Speaking of that, that's why I love the explanation in the Spider-Man video game, the PS4 one, the new one.
Oh, yeah.
How he's like, oh, they're at the East Coast right now. That's why there's like hardly any heroes.
Anyone helping you
Yeah.
solve the
Yeah.
problems of this city?
Yeah.
Because it's getting out of hand. Like,
Yes.
the firefight with Kingpin was big enough to begin with, and
Yes.
it only gets more grievous from there. I'm like, anyone else in New York right now?
No one's here apparently.
I've always said that like one of the worst places to live is Marvel's New York because you have a hero for literally every square block, and the crime is still going.
It's true.
It's because they're all there.
And it covers every section: Harlem, Luke Cage, Hell's Kitchen, Daredevil, Manhattan. Just tons of people in Manhattan.
Yes, too many.
You're just right. I'm just like, there's no end. You are safe. You should never be in trouble. And yet New York is always a cesspool of crap going wrong. It's like living in Gotham. It's like living in Gotham in DC. Just leave.
Well, and it's always funny with Marvel and DC. The way they portray California, both of them.
Yeah.
Like they always act like there's like way less crime over there compared
Right?
to like their other areas.
Because you got to remember when the Titans are stationed in San Francisco, right?
Yeah.
Titans Tower in San Francisco. We're like, what's going on? Nothing. Because every Titan issue was them leaving Titans Tower and going somewhere else.
Yeah.
On their off days, they would go and get pizza and hang out. Like,
Right.
Yeah,
there was nothing going on.
It's always sunny in Cali.
It's perfectly fine. And what we have, West Coast Avengers in California. We're just like, what are you guys doing?
Or Tony's short stint over there too.
Yeah, right.
With the silver Iron Man white suit.
This is super off topic.
I know.
My point, sorry, yeah, it is a break.
It is off topic.
We will have to ring it back in. My point being is nothing happens in comics on the West Coast.
But we got off topic mainly to point out that Spider-Man he is such an integral part of the MCU. He has so many closer relationships with so many other characters to leave him out. I mean, yes, he has probably the biggest rogue gallery compared to most of the others, but he's like the center of Marvel. Like Batman,
Sans Iron Man.
yes,
And Cap.
yes, but
So.
everybody's so connected and cares so much about Peter's character in that world.
And this is such a tragedy because we just finally got Fantastic Four.
Yes. So
Too
Fantastic
late.
Four and X-Men. I mean, Wolverine's.
The huge friends with Spider-Man.
Yeah, the
Not in
relationship.
the Ultimate Universe.
Not in the Ultimate Universe, but
that's always
in the
funny.
616 universe. So
Really off subject, but right quick. Anybody remember the time in the Ultimate Universe where Jean Grey switches Wolverine and Spider-Man's mind? It's hilarious. It is ridiculous. But Wolverine in the Ultimate Universe is a total D-bag, so it's
Yeah.
okay.
they really played on that with the Ultimate Universe, like because he's a little bit of a jerk, like in usual
Him and Hulk.
Wolverine fashion.
and Hulk are absolute
Yeah.
bastards in the Ultimate Universe.
I love the Ultimate Universe. I mean, I get why they got rid of it, but I do miss it sometimes.
Yeah, it was short-lived fun.
Yeah, that's probably a good reason why they ended it. So that way it was still an enjoyable, memorable,
Strange
universe.
experience.
Yes.
And we only got to bring Miles Morales over.
Yes.
Connected it back to Spider-Man. Didn't
Yes.
go completely off topic.
Yes.
Let's proceed.
Well, there is no going off topic because everything connected to Marvel is connected to Spider-Man anyways. Obviously, we're super pumped about Spider-Man. Their next movie, I think, is going to focus on him trying to escape from someone like Kraven. So we'll get a Kraven movie.
Oh, Kraven's Hunt would be.
Yes.
Kraven's Last Hunt.
Is that next in the line of villains? Because
That's who-
they've been
that's who
doing
they
it
really want.
chronologically.
I don't
Has it?
remember.
Yeah, because it was Vulture, and then it was Og. Oh no, not Og. It was Vulture,
Mysterio.
and then it was Mysterio, and that so far has been chronological. So
with
far.
the original comics.
Yes.
Yeah.
Strange.
Scorpion,
Would be next technically.
yeah. And he was already kind of teased.
But if you got the J. Jonah route, you could totally do it.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, first off, exactly. We actually have there's a mention of Gargan in the
We see
J.
him.
Jonah trailer. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's my point. So we could totally just go straight to Scorpion. Yeah.
Well, they even mentioned him in Homecoming. He's one of the.
Well, you
he's
see a
the neck
brief,
tattoo.
yeah, you see him briefly when he's talking to the Vulture.
Right.
'Cause
They also
Vulture-
had Shocker.
yeah.
in
Yes.
Homecoming. Yeah.
I really wasn't happy with how they handled the first Shocker, how they got rid of him, because I actually liked that guy that was playing as him, but he was gone.
Right quick and in
Bye.
an instant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that wasn't this gun? No.
No,
that wasn't that gun.
Well, all that to say that we're excited and we can't wait to see what they have in store for Spidey. We have actually some more segments to talk about. Up next, we'll be talking about the cinematic TV universe. There's a lot going on with Titans, with Crisis of Infinite Earths, and unfortunately, we also got the news that Hulu's Ghost Rider was canceled.
It just got announced in May.
Yes.
Tragic.
Yes.
Tragic. It's so tragic.